now is a time of innovation. A lot of these people that have gotten laid off and have been a part of a big company or somebody else's idea for the last 10, 15 years, now it's a great time for them to follow their own path and come up with their own ideas and do indie experiences, put together a prototype of your own and get some funding. And you never know, you may be driving the next big video game company and big video game franchise.
Welcome to the Hero of Circumstance podcast. I am your host, Dawn Pinkney, and I am also a mindset life coach. I help others to overcome obstacles and achieve their goals. And I've also been an executive in the video games industry for over 25 years, where I also helped many teams and video game projects to achieve great success. On Hero of Circumstance, I interview successful people who have been through difficult circumstances and become the hero of them, such as setting up your own business, getting through a layoff, getting through being fired. Whatever it is, I talk to them about how they were able to overcome it, so they're able to share their experience to help anybody out there that's going through a difficult circumstance, so you can become a hero of your circumstance. I'm joined today by fellow industry veteran of 25 years, BJ Bigley. BJ contributed to the success of one of the coolest gaming franchises with the most street cred, Tony Hawk's, way back when it was on Dreamcast. BJ has worked in many game development studios, crafting game experiences as a producer and a designer. And in 2004, BJ stepped into his passion for bringing people and companies together in recruitment. A games recruiter with a game development background. Unstoppable. BJ has worked for many leading companies such as Disney, Scopely, and Cryptic, in addition to embracing his entrepreneurial spirit and running his own recruitment agency, Prime Candidate. With his mom, Pat Bigley, who is one of the first original women in games. Prime Candidate has worked with Sega and PUBG, to name a couple. BJ, welcome.
Thank you very much. What a warm welcome. Thanks for having me.
All good. BJ, what I really love about your experience is the fact that you are recruiting for an industry that you grew up in and you created games in. So tell me a little bit more about that.
It's so very exciting to be part of an industry that I'm passionate about. And I grew up playing games since Atari and Super Nintendo and all the very early gaming and even old arcade games and pinball machines and that sort of thing. Watching my mom slide into the gaming industry before me. And she helped me get my first job as a tester at Crave Games, working on Tony Hawk. And I started working as a tester on some launch games for the Dreamcast. It was a really fun time in the gaming industry. And from there, I went into working as a producer designer, and I designed several games and was involved in bringing them to market. That was also very fulfilling. Even at one point, after becoming a recruiter, I started a fully remote game studio that was making social games for the Facebook platform. And as I told you, that winemaking game. And we were doing fully remote game development before anyone knew about that, before everybody was doing it in a pandemic, right? This was in 2008 or 2009 when things were tough in the business. And I basically was thinking outside of the box and finding ways to get everybody started and doing some business.
That all sounds great. And BJ, I love the fact that your mum got you into the games industry. Whose idea was it?
She got into the games industry on her own. And so she started building relationships. And then she introduced me to a lady named Annie, who was the chairman of the board for the Computer Game Developers Association, the association that put on, at the time, it was CGDC, the Computer Game Developers Conference. Now it's GDC. And my very first experience or exposure to the video game industry, I was coming out of TV and film production, and I got a job as a producer for an award show at the Game Developers Conference. And I was totally entranced. I was enamored with the video game industry. It was the coolest thing I had ever seen. I went to a big trade show at the Computer Game Developers Conference, and it was insanity. There were so many people and so many cool things to look at. I'm like, this is where I want to be. So within a year, less than a year, I was harassing my mom to try and help me find work as a tester or to break into the industry somewhere. And she did. She contacted a friend who was looking for testers and basically opened a door for me, and they gave me an opportunity, and it was a great experience. I learned so much as a tester. I would actually recommend that to people as a entry-level position, either that or community or customer service. It really helps you get the groundwork for what goes into games and how games are made.
Absolutely. And GDC is massive now. It's grown so much. So to have been in at the beginning of that is very interesting, BJ. All right. So, BJ, I know you're going through a layoff right now, or you did go through a layoff earlier this year. What I really love about where it's put you is it's put you in a place where you're back to working with your mom at Prime Candidate.
That's true. I'm very fortunate to have a family business that is prominent and is doing business in this current marketplace. I was working internally at a big video game company, and they went through an acquisition and they trimmed off the top and cut some jobs. I was laid off in March from that company, and immediately I started doing things back with Prime Candidate, working on a contingency basis and trying to bring in new business and also fill the jobs that we had.
Yeah, so you took that layoff and you're back to working with mom and you're busy hustling, growing the business.
Guerrilla style.
So BJ, what I'd like to ask you then is what's the dynamic like working with your mom? I know it's not the first time that you've worked with your mom, but how do you find working with your mom?
It's equally challenging and rewarding. Obviously, I love my mom and we have a good relationship, but it's always difficult working with family and stuff like that. I think we know what each other's strong points and weak points are, and we tend to augment each other as needed, which is good. This is actually our second business that we've worked together. So I'm very comfortable working with my mom. I think she's a good mentor and a good teacher. I've learned a lot from working with her. And then also in turn teach her a lot. And I often am exploring the innovative tools and processes and things like that, and then sharing with her the things that are worthwhile and things like that. Yeah.
That's really great. And I love to hear that you augment each other as needed. That's family. Are you recognizing that? Because I guess when you're in a team environment, I guess with people that aren't family, you may not always put that extra effort in to balance each other out. So it's nice that you're putting that effort in.
I think we both try. We do, but we also have our struggles in the same vein where we know that, hey, you're weak at this thing, let me do it, and stuff like that. Or you're stronger at this thing, you should do it.
Yeah, and it's nice with it being family that you can be a little bit more upfront about that as well.
Yeah, because like we know our strengths and weaknesses, and we're already vulnerable to each other as family, and so it's not really like a pride type thing. Whereas in a regular office scenario, there's often a lot of like pride or thoughts of the way I look or the way this might look or the way this might come off. Although I also always try and be respectful because it's my mom.
Yeah, and how wonderful that you've had that opportunity to come back to her in between these big recruitment jobs that you've had and to help her grow the business during this difficult time for the industry right now.
And to apply what I've learned and grown in these internal opportunities and help to share with her and to help her grow from it as well. So
yeah,
I do feel like we bounce off of each other.
That's great. Warms my heart to hear. And also, especially with, as you mentioned as well, with your mum being one of the original women in games as well. So that's great that you're there working with her now. And I know you mentioned guerrilla style earlier on about the business. So could you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I guess things must be really hard for a recruitment company in this current climate.
It is, especially like when people are posting jobs and there's like thousands of people in that submit themselves within a week. It is guerrilla style, like guerrilla warfare. Like you really have to try and navigate all the different intricacies of what's going on. And the networking is the only way to get anywhere right now. If you're just depending on submitting yourself into the abyss, you're going to struggle when they're looking at 2,000 resumes in a week and have to shut off the job because they can't keep up with the influx of resumes. That's unfortunately the kind of market that it is. And with another 2,000 plus people being laid off here in the last week or so, it's just a crazy environment right now for our industry. And we have to make sure that we are working smarter and not harder, and thinking through the submission processes to streamline it and to make sure that like your tools are top notch. I actually signed up for a mock interview panel for a friend of mine. She works at PlayStation, and she's putting that out there as one of the tools in association with Amir Savat. And they're doing mock interviews for people to try and help get them more comfortable with it. A lot of these people that have been laid off in the last 6 months had been working at that company for 10, 15 years and don't really know what to expect out of an interview these days. And everybody does it differently. So you really got to be prepared for anything and ask a lot of questions and make sure you do your homework and make sure that you come to the interview with questions in hand that are relevant to the business, to the opportunity, and that you've put some effort into your interview just as much as you would want them to put effort into your interview.
All right, BJ, lots of useful tips right there. You've been doing this for a long time, so you're an expert in the recruitment industry. And the analogy you used there was a good one, with just submitting into the abyss and needing to up your game with networking.
Sometimes for the job post on LinkedIn, it will show the job poster. And so you want to try and see if you know somebody who's connected directly to that person and try and go that route, number one. Number two, also go to somebody who does what you do or what you want to do at the company that you're trying to get in at that's hiring, and try and foster a relationship there. Maybe the higher up, the person who you potentially would report to, and then say, hey, maybe don't even start with the whole I saw the job posting thing. Try and build a relationship. Hey, I really like what the company's doing. I've been tracking the company for a long time. I like this game. I like that game. I would love an opportunity to just be part of the company at some point if it makes sense. Something non-aggressive, just like relationship building.
Absolutely. Yeah, cultivating the relationships, growing your network. And I would say, like, just being on the hiring end, somebody that knows the company and what they do and has a specific interest in aspects of what they do always stands out. Because quite often I've interviewed so many different candidates that they just, oh, it's a big company, or they just know the name and they haven't really gone beyond it. So what 100%, you just said there, BJ.
100%. Do your homework. Try and understand what it is that you can bring to the table to plus up what they are doing. But also, I wouldn't get too crazy about it until you actually have a job, or have a job lined up, or a job interview lined up. You don't want to seem like a crazy wacko.
Yeah, well, there's that. And then at the end of the day, it is hard when you get so attached to an opportunity and you don't get it. So
you have to be willing to let them all go. You have to be willing to let each and every one go, because you haven't won until they give you the contract to sign.
Yeah, there's that fine balance of investing enough energy to get the job versus not investing so much energy that you're so depleted if it doesn't pan out.
Yep. You can't be crazy about it. It is a balance, and it's a games industry. If you're not having fun with it, you shouldn't be doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's so important as well. And that always stands out. It's the games industry. It is an industry of fun. Yes, we're here to have an impact on the ROI, and that's part of the interviewing process, the business aspect of it. But let's not forget, this is an industry of passion. It's an industry of fun and passion. And I've always found, no matter where I've been at in the industry, people always respond to passion about games. Like even the top executives, they've all got their stories of how they got into games and what old games they were playing and what their favorite game to work on was. Like everybody's got their gaming story. So it will always be an industry of passion.
Every candidate I interview, I ask them, do you play games? What games do you play? Why? What's fulfilling for you about that? And I think that shows a lot of the psychology of the specific person.
It absolutely does. BJ, what I'd like to ask is specifically for your business prime candidate, it must have been really tough in this current market just to keep that going. So maybe you could tell me a little bit more about that in terms of the journey that you've had, persistence, or whatever it is that you're doing just to keep it going and keep growing.
That's exactly it. We have to be persistent and without being obnoxious or annoying. So you need to basically continue the relationship just as any other business development executive, where you're reaching out and talking to your contacts and keeping in touch with them and seeing if they have any needs. Whereas one of our clients had a layoff and they're in a hiring freeze. And instead of us helping hire people, we're helping work directly with their displaced employees and doing outplacement services with them, helping to enable them to hopefully stay in the video game industry, look over their materials, advise them on tips and tricks with regard to navigating the current environment, maybe some good things to put on their resume, maybe put together a website that showcases some of your capabilities and some of the things that you've done and some good ways to showcase that. Even with people that maybe don't traditionally do a website, it's a producer, a designer to put together a website and showcase some of their capabilities and some of their experiences and talk about it and put it in a logical manner in which people can review it, almost like a living, breathing resume in a website. And, that's really good. It shows that you're persistent and that you're showcasing your product offering and things like that. And then also bigger and bettering your own product offering. If you're a programmer and you're working on Unity and you're not working right now, you should be working on learning Unreal or some other tools that could help move you forward in your process, right? Just as another example. So learning new things, get a new credential. If you're a tester and you got laid off, go get a Scrum certification or a PMO certification or project management certification. That would help you get to the next step in your career and make you seem more desirable to people that are hiring.
Yeah, it's definitely a time to get creative
and innovate. Creative and innovate. We were talking about that as earlier as well, is that now is a time of innovation, whereas a lot of these people that have gotten laid off and have been a part of a big company or somebody else's idea for the last 10, 15 years, now it's a great time for them to follow their own path and come up with their own ideas and do indie experiences, try and put together a prototype of your own and get some funding. And you never know, you may be driving the next big video game company and big video game franchise. It's just because your idea was stifled for 5 or 10 years. And now is a good time, if you were laid off, where you can drive that home and flesh it out and see if it's something that can be successful. But what I would recommend is, as you're seeing all these people talk about getting laid off and this and that, reach out to your friends that have been laid off and ask if they want to meet up and brainstorm or play games together and try and find ways to innovate on other things and share ideas and come up with a new path, come up with a new idea, flesh out a new intellectual property, flesh out a new game technique or a new game process or a process to making games or whatever, or even just dig into a user-generated content platform and get a friend and make some cool shit. The example, Roblox. So you can go into Roblox and you have all the tools to make the things that you want. And there are actually, in fact, companies that have their whole basis built on these, let's call them mods or user generated content that they're now capitalizing on because they blew up and have so many people using their game that they are making money from it now. And so anybody could do that. And I don't say that loosely. That's the whole idea, is they want people to compete to do that. They want people to make good, compelling products on their user-generated platforms. And there's lots of these different platforms available these days where you could be one of the early ones to market with a good product that people lock into and that monetizes.
Yeah. And I think also just being in your creative flow, the more you're in your creative flow and the less you are worrying about the circumstances. I'm not saying you shouldn't be concerned if you're out of work, because obviously that's a really challenging circumstance to go through. But just being in that creative flow, you're just in a different zone and you're going to attract different energy to you than you would if you're worrying and coming from this place of lack. And obviously get creative about how that money's going to come in as well. But yeah, like I think it's good. You never know what's going to come out of just following your heart.
I find that the video game industry is built up of people that have ideas for games. That's why they're in it. And then quite often, more often than not, their voice is stifled and all they want is to have an impact on the game. And once again, while you're out of work, this is an amazing time for innovation and for having your voice heard. You are not limited at this point, other than financially. You can see your ideas through and find a way to put them out. Find tools, find free assets, find people to partner with that can help do the things that you can't do or don't do or however, right? I actually did this during our last recession in the games industry in 2009, in 2010. And I started a remote game development company before all that stuff was cool or even heard of. And we were starting to flesh out some of my ideas, and we were making social games, and I wrote a lot of game designs, and some of them got made and some of them didn't. Now is a similar time to that, when people are out of work and they have time to flesh out some of their thoughts or ideas that they had once had. All those ideas that you have on a Post-it in your wallet, now is a great time to start writing those down and fleshing them out.
Yeah. I love that you went through this before and you really did hit it when you were saying about meeting up with friends and brainstorming, because you don't know what's going to come out. A collaboration, when you're collaborating with other people. And like I said, you're just putting your focus on something that's creative instead of
And a
worrying.
positive energy. That's right.
Exactly. Because what's going to come out of worrying anyway? It's just a different use of the time.
Health problems are going to come out of worrying. And so you can't, I feel that the universe will provide if you speak to it. And so you literally have to put stuff out there to have it provide for you. If you just sit there and expect that you're entitled because you had this or because you had that, won't work. But you have to really work for it, and you have to show the world or the universe that not you're entitled, but that you're seeing it and that you're rising to the occasion, and that will be rewarded, hopefully.
It should be, because you're using your gifts, your talents that you were given, that only you have. And when you're doing that and you are sharing that with other people for their benefit, then only good can come out of that. And yeah, just following your path.
Yep. Even if it's not the good that you're expecting or you're hoping for, at the very least, you're going to get some morally rewarding stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Something is going to come out of it. Like you said, something morally rewarding. It could be new friends,
new opportunities. Like somebody could see what you did, or you could use what you did in this time to help you piggyback into whatever comes next for you.
Exactly.
And that's one of the reasons why I was saying is to better your product offering and to put something out there. And it's even get outside of that little box, right? If you were an artist, maybe use some of your ideas to help come up with a new path and use your art skills to help flesh that out. But do the design pieces as well, and try and do the bigger picture stuff where you're looking at it from a business perspective rather than just, I need to get paid, I need a job. Because
exactly,
everybody needs to get paid. Everybody needs a job. And maybe you're not able to depend on your creative job for right now, and you need to find something else to make sure that you don't go homeless, but keep doing these things on the side. Keep pushing it forward. Keep following your dream and following your path.
Yeah, because it can be easy when you've got the job and you just don't have to think so much. Yes, you're being paid to think for the company, but just in terms of yourself, your own creativity, being more strategic with your life. Like, you just have the job, you can quite often just be on autopilot,
Yep.
getting the paycheck. And now what's happening is you're being pushed outside of that comfort zone. You don't have that comfort anymore. And to your point there, yeah, like obviously there is the financial downside and you do need to figure out a way to earn money, but keep that creativity going and use it as a time to be more strategic about where you really want to be in life and not running on autopilot.
Exactly. Or living paycheck to paycheck, for that matter. Because if you do start a new IP or a new way of something, or make a new business based on your idea, you're not just going to be on autopilot. You're going to be doing a lot more than that. And you're going to be getting outside of your box, and you're going to be doing the things that you never thought you were going to do and that you were depending on some other jerk to do in your last job.
Yeah. And the better that you feel, the more fulfilled that you feel, the better other people will feel being around you, because that's what you'll be putting out.
Yep. Agreed.
Great. So I will say, though, with all that said, given your line of business, BJ, it must be difficult right now to see talented people struggling.
It hurts because I've seen a lot of people get laid off that have been successfully working in this industry, going from company to company, and have spent long tenures at each of those opportunities and things like that, and done some really great, amazing things. And they're now being laid off, and they don't know what to do. And a lot of them don't even know where to go and how to approach trying to find a job in this current climate. And it's unfortunate. So yeah, that hurts. And I'm very empathetic and I feel for these people. I've lived it myself and I know what it feels like. It doesn't feel good. It's very unfortunate. And it's sad to see our industry being dismantled by some of these bigger companies.
Yeah, that's definitely good that you've had your own journey, your own personal journey there with layoff, and can be compassionate. And yeah, it is tough for you to be dealing with this. And it was nice to hear your agency has pivoted a little bit to covering outplacement services. Because when you think about it, that actually seems like quite a natural growth, because essentially you're just putting more support into helping people find work. But yeah, it's a good one. So it's good that you're putting a lot more effort into each candidate now.
Helping these people find work and stay busy and hopefully stay in the video game industry and not leave, because a lot of this current activity is pushing people out and we don't want that. But yeah, I'm basically reviewing candidates' materials and coaching them based, for the most part, trying to help them define the tools, define some of the tactics for networking and or submitting yourselves out in this market to try and get seen. And I'm even doing mock interviews and interview coaching and prepping for interviews and things like that. It's so different, but we used to always do that just to help our candidates and stuff. And now we are doing that through some of our clients being paid now to help for that service. I also tend to offer people that I'll help them if I can, and that even if I can't get paid on the opportunity, like if I see a job posting, I'll either send it to them or I'll tag them in it, stuff like that. It's not just about the money. It's about trying to help these people and trying to help them get where they got to go and keep their families alive.
That's wonderful, BJ. I'm just so glad that we've got someone like you helping everyone who's out of work. And yeah, I know there are others that are popping up on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, it's just good times to be stepping up and doing what you can. So BJ, not only are you a hero of circumstance now, with finding different ways to use your skills in the industry to get through this most recent layoff and hustling for prime candidate and growing that business, but you've also been a hero of circumstance in the past. There's in-person networking, and I know you've used that to your advantage in the past. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I had been recently laid off from that job and I was down in the dumps and frustrated. I basically put myself to E3 and I was there networking in person. And one of my friends introduced me to one of her friends, and she said he's looking to build up a new social casino startup and he needs somebody to help do recruiting. And he and I sat and talked for 20 minutes. We shook hands, we exchanged business cards. And 2 weeks later, he says, I've got a team. I'm ready to go. I want to hire you to be my head of talent. So at that point, I was hired to be the head of talent for a new social casino startup backed by a big Korean media company. And it happened bing, just from a couple of handshakes and a short conversation. Literally just a friend introduced me to their friend. And next thing I know, I got my next job from that.
The power of in person. And it takes a lot of guts to go to a games conference when you don't have a job.
And also to go there alone and to just rub elbows with people and put yourself. So my biggest suggestion to going to any of these in-person conventions and stuff, it is not necessarily going onto the show floor and going to the big company booth and trying to meet somebody there. Chances are the person who's in their booth is not the person that you need to meet. Chances are. Where I found my most success is in the after parties, in any of the mixers that are put on, it's associated with the events, and in the hotels directly adjacent to the event. For example, in this instance, I was at the Marriott or whatever, which is just adjacent to E3 where it was in downtown LA. It was the closest hotel. Everybody goes there. You basically sit in the lobby and you see everybody who's anybody from the show. They all come through there. And so I would literally just put myself in that hotel lobby. You don't need to pay an expensive ticket to go to whatever event it is. You put yourself in the vicinity, you go to the popular hotel adjacent to it, you pay for parking and you pay for a couple of drinks in the bar and you put yourself there. And that is the best way to make connections. Have some business cards or have the LinkedIn QR code ready at hand. Add people to your LinkedIn. Talk to people. Talk to everybody. Don't be annoying, but talk to people.
Yeah, that's fantastic, BJ. I love that you just had the guts to put yourself out there and just really work it, because it can be easy to get into your head about the stigma of layoff and what other people think and what happens if you bump into anyone from your last company. And the reality is they're probably feeling awkward about it themselves. And you want to be the person that people want to hire. Like, you want to be the person that they want on your team. And that's somebody that's out there, positive, networking, confident, knows their own worth, knows that they're talented. Because just because you got laid off doesn't mean that you're not talented anymore. You've still got the same talent that you had already in this industry. And this is a growth opportunity.
100%. I agree with you. You definitely have to stay positive and come to the table with that positivity. And it's almost, I hate to relate it to dating, but it really is like dating. You have to show them that it didn't hurt you to get broken up with, or show them that you're not broken, your soul is not broken, and that you're still the same human being that you were when you were working for them, and now learn something from it and are moving forward onto bigger and better things.
That's it. Yes, the same human being that you were, because the people that got left behind feel bad about the layoff as well. Everyone feels bad about it. And I would say I've been laid off and I've maintained contact with the boss that laid me off, because you know what? They laid me off one time and the next time they're hiring me back. So it's so important to cultivate those relationships. You never know when your next opportunity is going to come.
It's all about relationships. And if you can cultivate and maintain good relationships and strong relationships, none of the layoff stuff, none of the work stuff is going to matter. When there is an opportunity, that person will remember you.
And, you know, what you just said there is reminding people you're still thriving, you're still successful, and now you're front of mind. So when something does come up or an opportunity does come up for somebody to help you, like, you're there, like you're front of mind, because people do want to help each other out. All right. And then just outside of the big conferences, you can look at what's going on in your local area. So there may be a tech panel or a professional meetup going on in your local area that it may not even be specific to the games industry. In the past, when I was going through a transition and I was just thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to get myself out there? Because I was thinking, I just want to join the tech industry in general. And I'm doing all this applying on LinkedIn to these tech companies like Uber and Apple. And I'm not getting through because I don't know anybody and I'm just blindly submitting my resume. So I just figured, you know what? I'm just going to go out there and speak to people in person. So I picked a panel. It just happened to be on blockchain. And I go down there and it was very interesting. I got blown away by blockchain and I spoke to everybody after the panel. And as it happens, I got invited to another panel and then another panel and then a conference and just kept meeting people. And I ended up with 2 jobs that way. I got 2 jobs in a completely different industry that I didn't even know, and all through in-person networking. So you don't have to just wait for the big conferences. You can just pick something small going on in your local area.
I support that 100%. There are a lot of really cool events that go on in local arenas that can help spin or snowball into your next career move. AI is big right now. Blockchain is struggling, but it's still there. I think the Web3 has a lot of potential. As well as VR and AR are still active. And there are companies making game products and media products and experiences, and location-based experiences are also big. I have a client right now that I literally just placed somebody as a location-based experience executive producer. So it's there. There is business out there and there are companies growing.
That's exactly it. With what's going on with the industry right now, it's very easy to look at LinkedIn and be disheartened with all the layoffs going on right now. There are a lot of startups there, and there are investors that are investing in startups, and all of these companies are growing. So the big companies may be laying people off, but there's a lot of smaller companies that are in a growth stage.
Thanks.
So BJ, actually, let me ask you one last thing. What would you say to anybody that's in a tough situation with a layoff right now? Just like, what would be your number one thing that you'd want to say to anybody out there?
Take your time, be patient. It's not going to happen overnight. Don't expect that you're just going to fall into a job magically. The market is crazy right now. So pace yourself. I would say take a minute to yourself to collect yourself, but then I would say spend anywhere from an hour to 2 hours a day on LinkedIn, and you should be looking for work and updating your LinkedIn profile and also networking within all of that time. But don't go crazy on it. Don't spend 8-12 hours a day on there because you're going to get overwhelmed. Just 1 or 2 hours a day, and then keep an eye on it. If people are replying to your messages or to your connection requests, you're not working right now. You should be replying to those people in a timely manner and watching it. So I would say that communication and networking and bettering your product offering should be the things that are on the tip of your tongue and the first thing that you should be doing. Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, enough to just be keeping the momentum going. Because like you said, it's not going to happen overnight. You've got to adjust to this new situation. Yeah, just want enough momentum every day rather than, as you said, just getting overwhelmed and going too crazy on it.
Yeah, and being persistent and not just going and not being desperate and not just going out to people and begging them for help or begging them for a job, because there's other people doing that right now and people making posts on LinkedIn talking about they're going to be homeless and all this kind of stuff. And to be honest, as much as you will get sympathy, empathy, all of those things, that's not what you want to put out professionally. And so your best thing is to try and figure out something that you can do to support yourself until you slide into the place you want to be.
Sounds good. Strategize.
Work smarter, not harder. And so pace yourself and think it through and network. There's a big convention coming up in San Francisco, GDC, Game Developers Conference. We talked about that. Get yourself there. Be there. You don't have to go to the show, but be there. Be in the area and go around to the hotels that are around it. Sign up for the mixers and go. Just be present. Mix around with people, shake some hands, introduce yourself, talk with people, talk with other people in the industry, that make friends. You never know where that's going to take you.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'd just like to credit Karen Churchill, who is a wonderful HR director, the best HR director I've ever worked with. I'd just like to credit her because she introduced me to BJ. And BJ, I know you've got good experience working with Karen as well.
I do. I absolutely loved working. I still enjoy working with Karen right now. And she's a friend and a great coworker and a good human being. I also appreciate all the things that she's done for me in the past. And I also helped her into her current role right now. So we have a very good working relationship and we continue to communicate. I actually talked with her this week.
That's great. And I'm sure all the effort that you're putting into helping other people right now is going to come back one day when you need it.
I certainly hope so. And honestly, that's not why I'm doing it, but I do feel like I just always try and do the right thing by other people and treat them the way that I would want to be treated and offer empathy and honesty. And outside of that, you can't really ask much more.
Great words to live by. All right, BJ, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate all the words of wisdom that you've been able to share, especially with your 25 years veteran background in gaming and as a recruiter.
Thank you so much for having me here. It was a pleasure talking with you and hopefully shedding some light into light and not just knowledge, but shedding some light into some of the people who have currently been through layoffs and who are struggling to try and find work, as well as even people that are working right now and just looking to get information on what's going on in the marketplace.
Awesome. And now for the science part. We're going to take a moment to check in with our systems and just see where they are holding tension and release it. There is no need to be carrying that tension with us moment to moment, or waiting until the end of the day to release it. It's quite simple, just to check in every now and again during the day and relax. So wherever you are right now, just take a nice deep breath in and release, and just check in with your shoulders. Are they holding tension? Just relax them, let the tension drop into the floor, and just move your attention to your jaw. Maybe you're holding tension there. Just let the muscles drop in your jaw, and move your attention to between your eyes. Maybe there's some tension there. Just let any creases, any wrinkles, any tension, just let it smooth out and have a really nice smooth forehead. Let it melt away. Check in with your throat. Maybe it's, constricted. Think about the space in your throat and just opening up that airway. Just feel the space within your throat and open that up. And just, move your attention down to your belly area. Maybe you're tensing it, and if you are, just let it melt away. Just let all that tension drop into the floor. And, check in with other areas of your body that you may be holding tension in. Maybe it's your hands, trying to control things, or your arms. Just let it drop, let it go, and relax. So this is literally like a couple of minutes that we just did here. I'm sure you got some benefit from it, and you can do this whenever you want throughout the day. No need to wait until you get home to relax. And thank you for listening to the podcast today. I really appreciate your time, your interest, and I hope this was of help. If you like the podcast, please follow it. That way you'll know when there's a new episode released. And if you are interested in mindset life coaching because you have something you want to achieve, or maybe you're just not in your best flow, or maybe there's an obstacle that you want to overcome, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you more about it. You can reach out to me via my website, marjoriedawncoaching.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Dawn Pinkney. My profile is public, and I would love to hear from you and chat more about it.